Hello viewers and welcome to one more episode of the Enoch Generation, a generation that walks with God. In our studios we have with us today Pastor Joshua Praveen, who was with us in the previous episode. He will continue to tell us about his journey with God. Yes, Pastor, you told us about how you had met the Lord and how you decided to do ministry and how you started to with a humble beginning. Now continue to tell us how you continued your walk with the Lord.
So after then what happened is I was just helping my brother in ministry and all that. But what happened is in that course of time where we had a meeting, and those 3 days I really took some time. I said, Lord, if you really want me to be in full-time ministry, in these 3 days you have to call me.
So were you working somewhere else at that point of time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I was working and I also helping my brother in ministry and all that.
So you hadn't moved into full-time
Yes.
ministry then?
No.
Fine.
No. I just came into the Lord. That particular almost 1.5 years, I was just working and still helping my brother and all that. So that is when I understood the importance of being with God. Those years.
Just to interrupt you, how did you feel working under a big brother? It's not that easy for two boys to adjust with each other, and you willing to humble yourself, accept him as a man of God and work under him. How did you manage that?
No, I always looked at him and respected him as a man of God, but it is very hard. He's a military man.
But I think you needed one.
Oh yes, he's a military man. If he says left, it is left. Even it could be wrong, you have to do it.
Okay.
I'm telling you.
You learned a lot of discipline.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, if I need to say, one fine day my brother gets up, he says, we actually sold our ministry car. So we waited for a month, it didn't happen. After one day he just gets up, he says, I don't know what you do, by evening you should get the car and come. That's how he says. I'm telling you, it could be funny, but the beauty is you just have to obey. And I'm telling you,
I hope you didn't steal a car then.
I did. I really had to pray. I really had to seek God. And God really had to open up a door because I just had to do, because I respect him as a man of God as well as an elder brother. So I'm telling you, that's how serious he is.
Well, that's good because he would have really taught you how to walk in faith.
Oh, that's right. Walk in faith and more in obedience.
Okay.
That's something that I see, this word obedience is become a bad word in this generation.
Because once you come to know the Lord and then you start ministering, you don't feel like working under anybody, Right?
That's right. So, but I learned what is to obey and what is to be, serving when I was working with my brother. But
That's
apparently,
awesome.
So in those 3 days I prayed, I was seeking God and I was asking God for directions. Because there was too much of pressure saying, why are you working and still doing ministry and all that? Why don't you get into full time and all that? So I said, Lord, you have to talk. On those 3 days, I just prayed, and I still remember it was the last day, right? It was the last day that this man of God actually, looked at me, and he said, the Lord is calling you for full time ministry.
Wow, amazing.
I freaked out. But the beauty is more than the prophecy. He looked at me and he said, the Lord is going to touch you. So I'm this guy, if somebody lays your hands and tries to push you, I'll push them back.
So you were more of a thug than anything else.
I used to
resisting the Lord as much as possible.
Because I didn't believe, if the anointing comes, they'll fall, but you cannot push somebody. So
you thought all the servants of God were into the business of pushing. People down?
used to. But the thing is, that's when I understood the power of God, because he was almost standing around 5 to 6 feet away, and he said, the Lord is touching you now. The moment he said touching you now, I don't know what happened. The power of God hit me and I flew almost 5 to 6 feet back. Like I was literally thrown back.
Just look at the beauty of the Holy Spirit. No? He understands, what works inside your system.
True.
So he didn't allow this man of God to even touch you.
True. So the moment I had the Lord, I felt the presence of God and I was thrown out. I still remember it was almost around 45 minutes. I didn't get up.
Wow.
I knew I was just off in the power of God, and that's when the Lord showed my whole life as if I was sitting down in a cinema theater and seeing my whole life. Like, when did the passion for ministry came up in my life? What is God expecting me to do? And everything. A lot of things that God portrayed there in that, that vision. So when I was just seeing all that, I was so convinced that no longer working made sense for me.
Okay.
I knew when I got up, I got up into a new life.
Wow.
Because I always believe when people come and talk to me about encounters, I don't believe in people just simply talking encounters, because every encounter has to bring a physical manifestation outside.
Amen.
It
It's
will
very
bring a
true.
change.
An encounter literally changes you.
Yes. So I've really believed that, because every encounter that I've had with God has really shifted my life into another extent, another height. So that particular encounter, when I had, I was so convinced no longer this world made sense for me. So when I came down, in fact, my boss was there in the meeting. I looked at my boss and I said, I'm quitting. My boss said, the moment he spoke, you're already out of my office. You're free to go, serve the Lord, and be successful. That's what he said.
Was he waiting for you to go? Or did he understand the need for you to go?
No, since he was a believer, and he really understood what was happening there.
Okay.
And he was so open to leave me to move forward in what God has called.
But when God opens the door, he makes everything so beautiful and perfect in his time.
Absolute. He never had sorrows to what he does.
Yes,
So
that's very true.
it's so beautiful.
But for that 45 minutes when you were, floored, what exactly happened to you then?
What exactly? Okay, it was like the first thing that I ever saw is, I still remember the Lord showed me is, there was this particular gospel meeting that I entered.
Okay. So it was a vision that you were seeing?
It was a vision,
Okay.
but the Lord was reminding my past, where He put this burden into my heart without my understanding, without my knowing.
Okay.
That's something that happened. It shocked me actually, because that particular instance happened in my past, which I didn't know, that affected me so much inside my heart, which God had to bring it out. It was a gospel meeting which I was walking through, and all of a sudden I saw this lame man who was just dragging himself in the ground. When I saw him in that meeting, I actually told myself, how I wish we could pray and get this man walking and running.
Wow.
I did have this, word popping out, and I was just asking God, and I walked back, because I was not exposed to all these things. So that went off. So the Lord
So
brought
I think
this
maybe
vision back.
that was your destiny that God had already seeded into you.
Oh yes.
That's why your thought processes were in line with your destiny.
Oh yes. So it was like the Lord reminding me, saying that was the day that I put that seed into your heart, that I will walk you with miracles and signs and wonders.
Wow.
It was like that. And the Lord showed me from what kind of bad lifestyle that He is calling me to, and what kind of an amazing life that I'm calling in you. So I was so thrilled in that few hours, in that few minutes that I had. So when I got up, I knew that something that God is dealing with me, and there's a huge shift that's coming. And I knew that relationship is getting more stronger and personal. So that's when I got up and I told my boss, and after that I told my dad, I said, Dad, I'm quitting, I have quit job. My dad asked me only one thing, did God spoke to you? I told him yes. The moment I said yes, he said, you know what now? Don't even think back. Go forward, serve the Lord.
And that's just such a blessing to have a family around you who's so supportive.
Yes.
So God has really blessed you with a very supportive family.
Yes. So when I told my mom, she said, I knew. I'm not surprised. I was waiting for this day and it happened. So it was not a surprise, neither we were struggling, because my mom and dad already were waiting for this particular time. All that they want to know is that you heard it from God. Because when God gives you a word, He's faithful to take care of it.
Amen. That's very true.
So that day I gave my life into full-time ministry. But the beauty is, after giving my life, in just 1 week's time, I get a call from my pastor, and he says, why don't you lead worship in church?
Okay, when it came to full-time ministry, what was your idea about full-time ministry at that point of time? Just working under your brother?
Yeah, just working under my brother,
Okay.
nothing else. I really felt, all my life, like before, I always felt God brought me in this family, and God made my brother as a servant of God. Now He's calling me. So I always thought we will both work hand in hand.
Okay.
That was always my dream, but I never knew what was coming in the future. So as simple as that, when I came into full time, I just started serving with my brother. I was helping him and getting things organized for him and all that. But the shift, there was this small shift that was happening, where after 1 week, my church pastor is asking me, why don't you lead worship? And I was surprised. because I've been going to the church for some years and nothing happened. And all of a sudden, this pastor comes and asks, and I said, without even thinking.
Were you leading worship with your brother's team or something?
No, I was just helping him in backup in the choir, but that too very rare. That too very rare.
So you've never had such an opportunity to lead worship?
Yeah, not much. I was always a person who was backing up things.
Okay.
I was always behind the scene.
Okay.
So all of a sudden when he asked, I said I didn't care, because it was not to prove. I said, I know God has called me for ministry and this is an opportunity that God is opening up. So I said, I don't care whether I know to sing or not, I'm going to worship God.
Oh.
That was my attitude. I said, whether people will sing with me or they will not, I'm going to worship God, and this is where God has called. I jumped into it. And next Sunday I went and...
So you knew this was one step forward that
yes,
God was giving you?
Yes.
Okay.
So I jumped in, but before the Sunday, the temptation was happening. It was like on a Friday, I get a call from my friend that he has a job opportunity that you have to just work for 6 months.
Okay.
In that 6 months, you just have to work for only last 2 months.
Okay.
And they'll pay me 6 lakhs.
Wow.
And I hardly have no work, because I can also appoint few other people to work for me, which the company will pay them.
Wonderful.
So it was such a tempting offer at that particular
it's
time.
like, it comes in a platter.
Serious. And so this was happening on a Friday, and Sunday I have to lead worship. And a week before, I came into full time.
Okay.
So this was the scene that was happening. So now it was so tempting. In fact, I went and prayed and asked God, Lord, why don't I work just for 6 months and pay all my family's debt and come out of the loan and serve you freely? So I was actually talking.
So, you were actually trying to, teach the Lord.
Yeah.
And you were dictating to him,
Yes.
and telling him how he needs to do things in your
Totally.
life.
I was trying to counsel him and give him ideas.
That's what we do most of the time.
Yeah, that is that's the most funniest thing that we do mostly.
Yeah.
So apparently when this was happening, and so I started praying, I said, Lord, I know this offer has come, it's so tempting, which I want to jump in and take in, but I told God, if it's not, you will stop me. Because my brother always told us one thing to pray is, even you could cry, even if you feel that you so badly need it, but if it's not God's will, say no to it. It's worth the crying.
Wow.
And all my life, I've prayed one thing. Even if I wanted so badly, desperately for it, I've only prayed, Lord, if it's not your will, even if I cry, take it away from me.
It's a very difficult thing to do.
Yes. Because one thing...
it becomes a battle between your spirit and your flesh.
But one thing that I've understood, when you pray that, you might cry for 1 day, 2 days, but you laugh for a lifetime.
Wow.
But you save that 1 day, 2 days laughter, and crying for whole life is actually worthless.
It's not worth it.
It's actually worthless. So that was the time I told God, I said, Lord, I need your direction. Okay. And I told God, Sunday I'm going to lead worship, so you better talk to me. If you don't talk to me again, I'm going to work. Okay. Then serve. So it's on your ball court. It's on your ball. The ball is on your court. So I want you to talk. So I gave it up, and I was there, and I led worship without caring who was there before me in the church. I enjoyed my time.
Of you. For everything, you ran back to the Lord and said, now come on, tell me, what do
yes.
I do? Where do I go?
Yes.
I mean, that's a beautiful heart you have.
Yes. Because I really felt, when after you start walking with God, you don't have the rights to decide by yourself.
Very true. You need to seek Him for everything,
yes,
big or small.
Yes. So when that happened, I led worship in church, and that was the first time in our church we had this exaltation time. And for my surprise, they took Jeremiah 1:5, and the moment the person who was doing that exaltation, when they said, I opened my Bible, I was so surprised. I found Jeremiah like this. Jeremiah is a book that you would really need to search. But all of a sudden that day, I opened and I got Jeremiah, and I knew Jeremiah 1:5 directly there. It was there in my eyes. And the moment I took Jeremiah 1:5, I saw this one word saying, you're a prophet to nations.
Wonderful.
That really struck me. And I said, Lord, listen, this was a conversation, me seeing the Bible. And I was telling God, see, listen, I don't understand this word, but all that I can see in this Bible, in this particular verse, is only this one word hitting my spirit. Why are you doing this? And I didn't understand. I truly didn't understand the meaning of being a prophet or nothing. So I was just talking, Lord, I don't know what you're talking about.
Do you have a desire to become a prophet? Or
Not
something?
at all. Okay. No complications of the fivefold ministry then. Not at all. All that I knew that I was a child of God, a son of God, and I'm there to serve Him.
Not bad. You didn't want to complicate the Lord leading you.
Oh yes, oh yes. So when I heard that, I was so surprised. I so got caught, and I was just praying. And the thing is, I was waiting on the Lord to speak to me. And what happened was that particular day, a guest speaker came into the church. And that day, when that guest speaker came in, and I thought, that's it, today the Lord is not going to talk, because he was a 60-plus old man. And those days I thought old people cannot talk the voice of God.
This is dangerous. Being in the previous generation, I wonder what you think of me now.
I'm sorry, it was those days, when I was
so
so young.
You have a changed heart
yes,
now,
definitely.
Right?
Those days when I was so young, I never, thought old people, because old people are always into correction. They don't understand your heart, and they talk from, know where your heart is. So I always felt that in my life. So when I saw him, I said, that's it, today God is not going to talk. And moreover, he came to the stage and he sang a very old song. Yeah. And when he sang that song, my heart went off more. I said, again, this man is not going to make any sense, because he's an Old Testament and I belong to the New Testament.
So you felt he was under the law and you were under the graces.
Yeah, it was so bad like that. So when he spoke that, so what happened is the next second after he finished his song, he calls me. He calls me and he says, son, come here. I thought he was calling me to change the, set the mic. So I directly went and touched the mic. He said, no, wait, stand there. The moment I told him to stand, I was standing there. He looked at me and he said, you're a prophet to nations.
Wow.
That trembled my life, because I knew it was only me and God dealing with me that verse. And when he spoke that, and he spoke some destiny word, and he told me that there's something big upon your life, you have to watch out. So that's when I understood God is up to something. And he said, you're called for full-time ministry. You've been asking God what to do. Lord is asking you to stand in faith. That's when I believed. I said, Lord, I'm not going behind that 6 lakh work. I'm going to go behind you. And that's where my ministry journey started firmly, without even turning back a bit. And I started running for God.
It's amazing, and it's really wonderful listening to you, Praveen. So viewers, you've been listening to how he's been called into full-time ministry and how he took his decisions, every step with the Lord. So you see, he is an Enoch walking with God. And we will continue listening to his journey in our next episode. Till then, a big God bless from us in the studios.